How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. You can find me, as always, at Dalton_Trigg on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find him on Twitter as well, at Coach Drew33. We are having a very delightful Friday morning as the Mavs seemed to have knocked the 2023 NBA draft out of the park on Thursday night, based on not just our opinions, but from the national media in general, which should really tell you something because they're as critical of the Mavs as anybody, over the last handful of months. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into how the night started, all the moves the Mavs made, moves that could still come, after what the Mavs did on draft night. And we're going to have a good time with this one. So here we go.
Hi, this is Luka Doncic.
Can he get it away in time on the step back? He does! He hits! He hits! And the Mavericks have won the game! Luka Doncic with a 30-footer to win it at the horn!
And you're listening to the Mavs Step Back Podcast.
Yeah, it's always a good way to get started. Woo! Love it when Luka gets us started with the intro there. Okay, so DJ, initial reactions to what the Mavs did, because they started with the 10th pick. We talked about it in our last pod. We said we love Lively. Especially you. You've been banging the Dereck Lively drum since December is the first I remember you mentioning him to me. Back when we didn't even know if the Mavs would keep their pick. So Congrats to you on calling this from so far out. But we talked about it and we were like, if they do take Lively, though, they don't need to take him at 10. They need to maximize this and squeeze a little bit more out of it. And sure enough, that's what Nico Harrison did. He traded the 10th pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder for the 10th pick and Dāvis Bertans to the Thunder for the 12th pick. And OKC had cap space, so they were just able to absorb Bertans, and that created a TPE, a traded player exception. So then they turn around with that trade exception and go to the Sacramento Kings, and they get Richaun Holmes and the number 24 pick attached to him. Just for nothing. They just absorb that. So, and then with the 24th pick or the 12th pick, they end up with Dereck Lively, our guy. And then the 24th pick, Olivier-Maxence Prosper out of Marquette, who is 6'8". He has a 7'1" wingspan, very athletic, shoots over 50% from the field. He seems like a slightly taller, slightly longer, little bit more athletic version of, what the Mavs had with Dorian Finney-Smith. At least that's my initial reaction to him. From what I've watched, I still got to dive into him a little bit more, but from what I've watched initially late last night and, just looking at everything that he has to offer, that was my initial takeaway, looking at Prosper. And then obviously Lively, the most obvious comparison there, and it's kind of cliche, but Tyson Chandler, I see it. I can see how he fits that mold, and then he could add a little shooting into the mix too. So overall, the Mavs, they definitely got better in the defense and grittiness department of their roster. Now, rebounding, they're going to need a little bit more help. I don't know how much Holmes really helps with that. He might not be a long-term piece here. We'll see what they do with him before the end of the summer's over. But overall, initial reactions from you, DJ, what'd you like about the draft?
Well, whenever they announced the Lively pick, my first reaction was called it, but
yes.
I won't toot my own horn about it too much. But no, it was really nice to see Nico make some extremely savvy moves in this draft. He did exactly what we talked about him doing in the previous pod, which was splitting the aces. getting more value out of that 10th pick than what was originally allotted to it. And, I thought it was a tremendous job. I don't think that Holmes was really a long-term piece. I think he was more of a means to an end. I love the Prosper pickup. I love the Finney Smith comparisons. I think he's a little bit further along at this stage in his career than Finney Smith was at that stage in his career. I think he's a much better shooter. I think he's a much better offensive player than Finney Smith was at that stage. So I think that was a tremendous pickup. Overall, A+ draft. I can't say enough. I was very happy. I was very happy to see us finally invest in a draft.
And we've been talking about it. If you're gonna invest in a draft, this is the ones that you want to invest in because it was such a deep pool of talent. One of the deeper pools we've seen, in a long, long time. So I'm glad that the Mavs front office recognized that. It's like, okay, yeah, you want to get win now pieces. You want to re-sign Kyrie and you want to have, enough good veteran pieces to make you a true contender now and compete for a title. But you don't want that to bite you in the butt a few years down the road either. Like the Phoenix Suns, for example, I saw a thing on the timeline the other day that said they don't control any of their picks, not first or second rounders through 2031.
Jesus.
I
saw that too.
The next 8 years, they control none of their picks.
It's a whole decade.
KD is getting older, and, he has injury issues. Bradley Beal has had injury issues, and he's been, pegged as a empty calories guy until he got to. We'll see how all that works out in Phoenix, but man, I'm glad the Mavs didn't push all their chips into something like that, and it looks like they have more of a young foundation going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you look at the roster before last night. It was like, okay, you have Jayden Hardy and you have Josh Green. That's your two main young pieces. And now you add these other two into the mix with Luka, and it's like, okay, I can see where this could be going, the next couple of years. So I'm happy. And look, the Mavs probably aren't done. Nico Harrison said as much. They're gonna try and do some stuff in free agency. They did. They also got a couple of players on the undrafted free agent market after the draft was over. They got a TCU guy, Mike Miles Jr., who is a baller.
He's great.
And he is a local guy. So he tweeted out, "We staying home," after he signed that deal. So good for Miles. And then they got Jordan Jelly Walker from UAB. Who is only 5'11", but he is also a hooper. He his highlight tapes are hilarious. Like imagine JJ Barea, but like the most athletic fadeaways, and how can I say it? It's like Barea height, but hot Kyrie Irving type moves.
Yeah, he actually reminds me a lot of a guy. He never actually made it to the league. The furthest he made it was for 1 year of college, named Trey Jefferson. I don't know if you remember that highlight tape.
Yeah.
But that was literally the nastiest highlight tape of anyone I have ever seen. And he's literally like this 5'4" kid dunking and everything. He was great. But anyway,
legendary hype tape.
The Mavs summer team is gonna the summer league team is gonna average like 150 points a game. I don't know how good they're going to be defensively, but they're going to average a lot.
I'm still working on the logistics part of it, DJ, but I'm hoping that we can, kind of find a way to squeeze in at least a weekend out there for summer league. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm working on it. We'll see. But yeah, you're right. That's the summer league team is going to be stacked. It's going to be fun. A bunch of guys, like Miles and Walker are going to be playing to get a real NBA contract. What I like about the Mike Miles Jr. signing is, NBA teams with the new CBA, they can now have 3 two-way contracts on their roster, where previously it was 2. So when it first happened, I was like, oh, does this mean that McKinley Wright the fourth or AJ Lawson is going to going to be replaced by Miles, and that wasn't the case. So they get all three of them now and get to develop them and just see what happens. So, but yeah, man, I'm excited. Lively, I think he is going to be really good. Now, I do think I understand why some people are tempering their expectations because, when you have a center like Lively, he has all the intangibles, but he probably needs to add a little more weight, a little more muscle. But I mean, that's normal for a kid his height at his age. Like it'll happen. You just got to give him a little bit. And it's going to help that he's coming into a situation where he doesn't have to be the guy. Going to the Mavs in the lottery, most of these guys are going to teams where they're expected to, be one of the top guys right off the bat. But Lively, that's not the case. He's going into a situation where Luka and hopefully Kyrie, they're hoping to re-sign him pretty quick when free agency opens. That's the two guys carrying the majority of the scoring load. And then you got a guy like Jayden Hardy off the bench and Tim Hardaway Jr., unless they trade him, which I think is going to be one of the Mavs' next moves in the coming weeks. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is definitely going to get traded. So scoring is not going to be an issue. I don't think he's going to be pressured to score. But, before the draft happened, they talked to Lively and asked him about his fit in Dallas and like his workouts and everything. And he was talking about how it was a great visit, how he showed the Mavs how committed he is and how much of a hard worker he is. And he thought that really resonated with them. And then when they asked about his fit with Luke and Kyrie, he said, look, he's not trying to step on any toes. He's wanting to come in. He's wanting to set screens, roll to the basket or pop out to the 3-point line, block shots, defend in space, do all the little things. And, Prosper, he echoed that when he was interviewed about his fit with the Mavs. So everybody's on the same page here. Everybody gets it. You got your two stars. You need guys around them who play defense and can do all the little things. So this was a really big step in the right direction for the Mavs. And I'm excited to see what they do next. I don't know what it is that they do next, but we'll see. I still wouldn't be against trading for Ayton and having like kind of ease Lively into it. He wouldn't have to be a starter from day one. But I don't know now. Now I got to go back to the drawing board and put some stuff together because I don't know what I want now. Because I think Lively could start from day one, and I think it'd be fine because his role would be so defined and it's stuff that he does so well. So what are your thoughts on that as far as like how Lively and Prosper should be integrated from the beginning, and then what you expect to see, with this roster going into the next few weeks?
I don't think it'd necessarily be a bad thing for Lively to be integrated immediately, just to throw him into the fire. I think it'd be baptism by fire. Don't get me wrong. And I think that there would be a learning curve pretty immediately. But what we have to understand about Lively is I'm fairly certain he's young for his class because he actually reclassed up as a high school junior right before committing to Duke. So he's young. So there's still, a lot of room for development there. I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing to throw him in the fire right away, simply because he would develop quicker. Now, granted, there's going to be headaches. And I think, his lack of bulk and lack of, just muscle may negatively impact him on the glass for now. But I mean, the guy's like 7'1". He can jump out of the gym. I don't think that the learning curve will be that tremendous as far as rebounding is concerned. And here's the reality. We just need him to be able to set screens, catch lobs, and rebound and block shots. And that's it. That's all we need him to do. And he can do that right now. As far as Prosper is concerned, I'd like to see him come off the bench. But the big thing about Prosper is, God forbid, if we do have to trade away Josh Green, it's nowhere near as negative of an impact now. Like, say, if we had to trade Josh Green for DeAndre Ayton, it's nowhere near as negative of an impact now. So,
Yeah.
No, I think both of those guys could potentially impact you immediately. And I think, I'd like to see us integrate them a little bit slower just for their sake, but it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like last year. There were a handful of people. I think it was in mid to late November when Jayden Hardy was really, popping off for the Texas Legends, and I was just like, hey, can we bring him up now?
Yeah.
we could use a little bench scoring here. And everybody's like, oh, no, just bring him along slowly and everything. And then toward the end of the season, they finally had to just throw him in there. And he was dominating. Like he was really filling it up. And I was thinking, yeah, this would have been nice if we did this earlier in the season. And then he was more prepared, here at the end, and maybe it'd be more meaningful basketball. But hey, I know not all guys are the same. So you never know how they're going to progress and what they need. But one thing is for sure, to get better, you have to play more. So
yes,
you have to play through mistakes. You have to play through mistakes. And that's one thing that I like about Kidd. If you'll give effort and if you play defense, he'll let you play through mistakes. That's how it's been with Josh Green. Since Kidd has become coach, Josh Green couldn't get hardly any playing time under Carlisle, but he does under Kidd because Kidd lets him play through those mistakes. And to his credit, Green has gotten a lot better because of it, and he's still only 22, so he could still get even more better. So, so yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting ideas out there, and we still have this thing about, if the Mavs wanted to, they could trade their 2027 pick. They could attach that to Tim Hardaway Jr. or, Josh Green or something like that and just see what they could get back, whether it's an actual player or if you want to get a couple of picks for next year's draft or I don't know. There's a lot of different ways they could maximize that since it's so far out into the future because, I don't know. They might want to hold on to that if they think there's a chance Luka might leave, but I just really don't see that happening. Not on this next contract, at least. I think he will sign another extension and just see, how it goes. But what do you think about Kyle Kuzma? Because we've talked about this. He is super talented. And I told you this the other day when we talked about this. My perception of Kuzma is kind of skewed because every time I watch him play the Mavs, he just cooks the Mavs. And just like he is a all NBA guy, perennial all NBA Kyle Kuzma. And I mean, he's like the perfect kind of 3/4 you'd want, if Lively develops the way we think he will, playing with this team. So from a pure talent standpoint, from a fit standpoint, like it works. But then you have the thing where he's kind of a knucklehead, and he's wanting like $30 million per year, which is, when I saw that the other day, it made me want to post that meme of Adam Silver where it says, "Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy," which isn't going to happen. But I don't think $30 million a year for Kyle Kuzma sounds kind of ridiculous. But anyway, where are you at in alignment with that? Based on his talent and the fit with the Mavs.
There was a time, and I'm sure you remember this time back whenever Kyle Kuzma played for the Lakers, that he was considered by a lot of people to be Jason Tatum's equal. And in terms of talent, just pure straight ability, I can see it. Unfortunately, that's not all that goes into this. In fact, it's only probably about 50% of what goes into this. I don't think that there has been a locker room that has embraced Kuzma simply because of the way that he acts. There have been multiple occasions where people have talked about his lack of interest in the game. There have been instances where he has talked about his own lack of interest in the game, where he'd rather spend time at home on Fortnite. So I think it's a risk/reward situation. I don't know if the reward outweighs the risk with that guy. I really don't want to experience another Christian Wood 2.0 situation. I think that there's a chance for that to happen with Kuzma. But if it works, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, he's got tremendous upside, but I don't know.
I don't know either. And look, if you're going to pay big money for, a guy to be your 3/4, you want it to be a guy who, if he's a knucklehead, at least he's a proven knucklehead who's and where I'm leading into this is Draymond Green. Because, Draymond, he's going to opt out of his final year of his contract and become a free agent this summer. And, the Warriors, they just traded Jordan Poole to the Wizards for Chris Paul, which, I mean, look,
wow.
I know Jordan Poole was not good at all last year in the first year of that big contract they gave him, but that's a head scratcher to me. I mean, maybe that was like a desperate attempt. Maybe Draymond was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to opt out and I'm going to leave because I don't like Jordan Poole, because he punched him before last season started and it was on film and it got leaked somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a situation like, I don't want to stay with this guy. And the Warriors like, he opted out and maybe he's going to leave. Let's trade him.
Yep.
We'll get 38-year-old Chris Paul. That'll be what extends the dynasty. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but I do know Draymond Green loves Luka. I do know he has some. He doesn't have anything bad to say about Kyrie Irving either, to my knowledge. But I could see that being a situation, where maybe the Mavs part with that future pick if it entices the Warriors to do some sort of sign and trade. Because that's something maybe you could use Tim Hardaway Jr. and another piece to work it out. And then if you have to pay Draymond somewhere in that, $25 million range, I think that's more warranted than, taking more of a gamble on Kuzma. And look, maybe Kuzma would be fine in Dallas. There's just something about, all the stuff when before Spencer Dinwiddie was traded to the Mavs, there were so many reports of the locker room dysfunction in Washington. And then Dinwiddie, he kept going after Kuzma, every time that the Mavs played the Wizards after he was on the Mavs, and him and Kuzma going back and forth and everything. And I'm just thinking, like, is this a Dinwiddie thing or is it a Kuzma thing? Because Dinwiddie seemed fine on the Mavs from everything I saw and all of his interviews and everything. And I mean, I haven't seen anything with Kuzma up close and personal, in locker rooms or anything like that. But from my bias standpoint or I guess my experience with Dinwiddie, it leads me to believe that Kuzma might have been the issue in that Washington locker room. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to see. All I know is I am extremely happy with what the Mavs did. Nico Harrison did great. I think Mark Cuban finally just kind of relaxed a little bit, sat back and let his GM do his job, which was amazing to see. I know it's hard. It's you own a team. You're passionate about a team. Mark Cuban is, as much flack as he gets, he's the biggest Mavs fan out of anybody because of the investment he's put into it. I mean, he is the biggest Mavs fan. So it's hard for him to just kind of sit back and just trust somebody else to do what they do. But it looks like he finally did that, and I'm happy that he did. And also, kind of an underrated aspect of this is the Mavs added Dennis Lindsey into the mix, with their front office, kind of like an advisor to Nico. And, he was the guy that identified and drafted Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, I believe, in Utah. So, he has a pretty good track record with drafting too, and I'm sure he had some kind of input along the way. But DJ, is there anything I've missed other than Kristaps Porzingis? He was in a 3-way trade that fell apart, and then they had another 3-way trade come up, and so now Kristaps Porzingis is with the Celtics. Marcus Smart is with the Grizzlies, and Tyus Jones is with the Wizards. Okay, yeah, I got it. So other than that, is there anything I've missed?
Just a comment on the Memphis situation. They are desperate for a point guard. Like, wow.
That was my thought too.
Wow.
I love Marcus Smart, and what he does is like a culture setter, a tone setter. But it's the internet tells me he's 29 years old. I feel like Marcus Smart is 33 years old.
He's been around forever. And, the thing about Marcus Smart is he gives you, great ability on the defensive end. He's a great leadership guy, great locker room guy. I just feel like he's so limited offensively, and to give up so much to get him, oof. I'm glad I'm not a Grizzlies fan.
I'm glad we didn't take off early, because I just got a thing on here. Tim McMahon on the latest Hoop Collective pod is saying that the Hawks want either Josh Green or Jayden Hardy for Clint Capella. What do you think about that? I'd probably trade Josh Green for Clint Capella.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think other Mavs fans are going to hate me, but I would do it. I would trade Josh Green. I'm not trading Hardy. I'm just not.
My answer on this would be much different if the Mavs hadn't used that trade exception and gotten Prosper with the 24th pick last night. But now that they have, I would do that.
I said earlier, it makes losing Green a little bit more palatable. So,
and who knows, that might not, maybe you can factor in Tim Hardaway Jr. into that same trade and get a guy like Bogdanovich.
Yes.
From the Hawks too.
That'd be helpful.
Get Bogdanovich and Capella from the Hawks for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Josh Green, and you're cooking.
I want that. That sounds great. Either Bogdanovich or get a pick or something. I don't know, but
yeah. Because I mean, look, that's a situation in Atlanta that could be blowing up in the next, probably the next year.
Yeah.
If not a little bit more than that, because, Trey Young hasn't been happy. John Collins, they've been shopping him left and right for 2 years now. They were shopping DeAndre Hunter. They signed DeJounte Murray, and there were rumors that he could get traded last night. I mean, it seems like it's a mess in Atlanta. So we'll keep an eye on all that. But yeah, Capella is kind of like Lively in that he checks all the boxes for what the Mavs need from a center, but he's also a wise veteran, and he's filled out and he's ready to go now. And you could ease Lively into it and have him learn from Capella too. So
yes,
that would be pretty cool.
Capella's solid. I've always liked Capella. A couple of years ago, there was some kind of talk about possibly trading for Capella, and I was all for it. I think Capella would have been great, and I think he still would be great. I think he'd be great for Lively's development as well. But most of all, it gives you a good rotation with your post players. You've got a good, solid rotation at the 5. So, and that's huge, just because decent post players are so hard to come by. So
I think back to how good he was running pick and rolls with James Harden. when he was in Houston. And I just think, like, man, think of him doing this with Luka and Kyrie. Like, just pick your poison. Like, it would be amazing.
It'd be perfect. It would be perfect because that's the type of thing he needs to be in. In Atlanta, he never really got those opportunities because, Trey Young is just going to pull up from everywhere. They don't really run much P&R over there. So, my only concern with Capella is his ability to defend the P&R at this point. But in the past, he's been okay. Either way, I'd do it. I love Green, but I'd do it.
I'm looking up pick and roll stats because I don't know where the Mavs ranked in that. I wanted to see it before we hopped off, but may not be able to do it. Let's see here. Okay, so just so you don't get cooked on the timeline later, DJ, because you know how people are. They'll go to NBAstats.com and they'll say, well, actually, Trey Young, he has like a 50.8% frequency as far when it comes to running pick and rolls. But I will say this. I don't think about that, though. All I think about is when Trey Young is pulling up from 35 feet, and most of the time, he's missing it. He does hit some big ones, but a lot of times he misses it. But I do think quite often about how James Harden and Capella ran that pick and roll to perfection in Houston for all those years. And they actually made it to the Western Conference Finals doing that before I think Chris Paul got hurt. They were up 3-2 on the Warriors in that series, and then Chris Paul got hurt.
Yep.
Man, Chris Paul is unlucky. And now he's on the Warriors.
I don't think he'll be there for long. But you're right. Whenever you think of the Atlanta Hawks, you don't really think of pick and roll sets. At least
outside of Trey Young,
Yeah,
I mean,
you just really don't think about that. And there are so many different instances of Trey Young just coming down the floor and pulling up just in ISO sets. So I don't think that Trey Young is really a polarizing figure in the pick and roll example department.
Well, I think I'm just glad the Mavs made the trade they did 5 years ago, because people think that the Mavs are in hot water, with how they've built this roster around Luka over the last handful of years. But imagine the boat the Mavs would be in if they had just taken Trey Young with the third pick and didn't make the trade for Luka. They would be in really hot water right now. So I am very happy that didn't happen. And if Luka is healthy and in shape and you've got some solid pieces around him, you're always going to have a chance. So I'm excited to see where this season goes. Well, guys, that is going to do it for another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. We appreciate all of you for coming in and listening every single time. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for a chance to win ticket giveaways, t-shirt giveaways, anytime we do one of those. I've got one that's going to be coming up around Summer League, so be on the lookout for that, and go ahead and throw your name into the hat by leaving us a review on there. We really appreciate it. Also, please go to DallasBasketball.com. We have a boatload of content over there from myself, my guy Grant Afseth, Michael Mulford, Mike Fisher, Richie Witt, a handful of guys just pitching in stuff. And we, from top to bottom, we're going on 24 hours straight of, posting stuff over there. So go check it out. There's a lot more coming today, and there's a lot more coming in the next few weeks, as free agency gets underway, and then we'll roll into Summer League. So, guys, we appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your day, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.